it's nice to be here with the alders and the stream here, and to be able to, plant a tree to bring that about again. It's like not enough of us take care of our forests in that way. And some of us are prevented from taking care of our forests the way that we know how it should be done. Because now we have academia that knows best, and and slices of science that kind of paves the way for the experts. But as we always go about, it's like the science studies are too slim. They don't really know what to study. I keep asking, when will there be a scientist that studies what happens to the river when the salmon turn the rocks over? What happens to the temperature and the cleanliness of the river when the salmon come up and turn the rocks over? Nobody knows that yet. They're still trying to study why the salmon spawn when they do. They don't realize that, each salmon run is a gene. They have a special gene, meaning that the fall run salmon, they come in and spawn right away. As soon as they get there, they spawn right away. That's their gene. The winter run, they come in and they wait. And they wait because they have a long way to swim. And when they get to where they should be, they continue to wait until the water is just right. And when the water comes right, they spawn. But the timing, you can't make them adapt. You can't make a fall run salmon turn into a winter run salmon by adaptation. Even if you drop them in the high mountain waters, this is not going to happen. But science hasn't caught up with that yet. And I think that's why they want to put the hatchery fish up above the rim dam into the waters, that they're not going to make it, But there's no science to back us up. we need scientists on our side and to listen, to what we're saying, so that they can bring about some understanding for others who are making those kinds of decisions. Just like this tree. I don't know who thought about bringing this little tree out here and putting it in this forest, but the singing, the vibrations of song that go through these, that the spring will be here soon, is a good way for this. So again, I have Mount Shasta water here because, we are water people, and that our strength comes from that place. Our beginnings come from that place. And as we go out and we speak, we want you to hear those words from the mountain, from that sacred place, and relate it to your sacred place, wherever that sacred place is. And that's why I was saying about the sacred mountains around the world. When our salmon left California on those ships to go to New Zealand, they stopped in Hawaii. They had to stop in Hawaii to get ice because the salmon needed to stay cold. So Mauna Kea was a very important mountain for the salmon to make it to New Zealand. So we have that relationship with the Hawaiians. And so people will say, why Hawaii, right? That's why. That's why we have that connection to the Hawaiians. And they understand that, as stargazers or navigators, without science, without telescopes. They already have that. But science needs telescopes. And the problems being water systems. Mauna Kea is the water source. It's the water tank of the entire Big Island. All sides of the Big Island get water from that source. And it's like they can't afford it. But they don't know they can't afford it. They want to put one more, just, probably be the last one. We only got 13 up there now, and every one was the last one. But it's going to be the biggest and the most damaging to the aquifer. But we're all related in that way. And so when I'm talking about Mauna Kea, Mount Shasta's water system is connected to that place. And the system of the volcanoes is totally misunderstood by most people. How that sea of fresh water underneath chooses to come up in places that we don't really understand why it's there. It just comes right out of the ground. But we also understand that it can choose not to. It can choose not to come up there if we're mean to water, if we're bad to it, if we don't appreciate it. And for us, the signs, you saw in the movie that the water dried up on Mount Shasta in the film. Well, 2 more times it's dried up. So the signs are there for us. We know for a fact that people have to change. And events like this where you're sharing in this life of this tree, because the roots have to grow. And we're a part of those roots. And if we can continue to be that, you know, once we leave here, we continue to have that root system taking place, then we ground ourselves into this way of life, or this effort to save life. Because that's what it's doing. You know, it's like people should come back and see how this little tree is doing. Come back and sing to this little tree. Come back and put water, share with it, you know, because we have that relationship. We should have that relationship. A lot of times we ignore those relationships because we don't want to be, what, tree huggers? That's what we were called on the river when Sky was helping us defend the river for our puberty ceremony. The people in the boats came up and they called everybody tree huggers. It's like,
That's a compliment.
yeah, but we were on the river. It's like, is that the best you could do? You don't have a word for the, the river rats or whatever. They get confused. They're totally confused. But I think that when we come together on these issues and we begin to understand them, then we begin to see the bigger pictures of survival, you know, and all of the things that we need. Like this stream needs these trees as much as the trees need this stream. So if the stream was ever diverted, it would be disaster. You know, and so people making those decisions, you know, they can't improve what Creator already put here. It's already the best. But now it's time, you know, for the people to stand up, the good people in the world, the good people everywhere, to start voicing the concerns of Mother Nature and making it known that, you know, corporations should not be hold people status.
No.
You know, but right now they do for some reason. It's like, who let that slide through? It's crazy. But for the indigenous peoples around the world, I know that they are also, they depend on the trees, they depend on their relationships to the trees. The trees are their supermarkets in many countries. And so it's an important being that brings us and gives us medicine, it gives us food, it gives us shelter. You know, in our area, we have dugout canoes. And dugout canoes are made from these huge trees. And people will say, well, how did you get that? You know, and it's like, because we have this relationship with the trees, and the trees give us cones and nuts and all kinds of things, that when the tree grew old, and the tree was knowing that it was going to leave, it was not going to live too much longer. And he looked at his people and he said, oh, I want to leave you something. I want to give you something when I go, so you'll always have me. And at that time, the dugout canoe was given to the people by the tree. And the tree said how to make the dugout. And so in the dugout is the heart and the lungs in the floor of the dugout. And on the edges it said, make my arms go around you so I can hold you in my boat and take care of you. And in the front of the bow is I'm gonna help you get to where you're gonna go. And so the dugouts reflect our trees. It's not just a taking. It's not just, it has to be made just right. It has to be made with the prayers and the way of life that all of the people who are making this dugout, whether it's a one-man dugout or a 10-man dugout, that these things have to be done in the right way. And so I think about it as like we can be makers without being takers. You know, we made bark skirts from maple trees by taking just the bark, pieces of bark off the tree. The tree continues to live while we can make a bark skirt. We made our houses out of bark, taking just the bark. The tree continues to live, but we have a house. Now it's like somehow the thought of having to destroy everything to build something came in. It's like clear cut this whole 5 acres so I can put a house. It's that thinking that has happened, to our trees. If you go from California to Oregon, if you fly over that area, you look down and you can see all of the clear cut. But if you drive, you don't see any of the clear cuts, right? They hide it. They hide it. They don't want the people on the highways to see the clear cutting that has happened. But the clear cutting is more than just a problem with the runoff, because they come in and they replant the renewable resource. But the renewable resource isn't really good for the little butterflies that need the trees or any of the smaller plants that bring the water to the surface because of the trees. Driving out here, you saw all of the water on the grasses. Yeah. And so Mother Earth creates water everywhere if we let her. If we stop cutting and mowing everything down. That in our area, we have what they call the golden sweet peas. And the golden sweet peas have these big leaves. And when the big leaves in the morning, you'll see that they're full of water. They're like little cups. They're like little cups of water. And then later in the morning, you'll see the little birds come down to these little cups of water. And some of them will spill out and it'll go on the ground. And I'm thinking, oh, they're watering. They're watering this morning. And the little butterflies will come in the afternoon and they'll get that water out of those little cups. But a lot of people don't like to let that grow. They don't like to let it grow for some reason. And right now in our area, the manzanita is under attack. We're clear cutting the manzanita to put new homes. And I'm thinking, I guess the science hasn't caught up with the issue that the manzanita, if you've seen a manzanita, you'll see it has thick leaves, thick round leaves. And if you drive through the areas that have manzanita, they glow like a car coming. They reflect the light. That's what they do in the daytime. When the sun is up, they're reflecting the light. They're reflecting the heat. And now we're clear cutting them out so they don't do their job. They're also, one of our particular wood burning plants. And also they're a food and they're a medicine. I mean, they're so useful. It's like I don't understand why no one else has found out that, manzanitas are really a gift to us. So I wanted Michael to share another song too for this tree and for our connections so that we can continue to be the people we're becoming. We're always becoming. I asked my Grams in her 90s, I was thinking, he was like, I just don't know what to do, Grams. I was like, what should I do? I don't know enough. And she says, at 90, she looks at me and she says, I'm still learning too. I don't know enough either. And if we keep that open to be taught, because our life is lucrative. You can't just get a degree and say, I'm done. I know it all. I'm going to operate the rest of my life on that degree. It's like you have to continue to look around. You have to continue to put things together and learn. You have to learn from wherever that teaching comes from. You know, and maybe this tree, as you come back to it, it's going to be a teacher for many of you to come back and see it, to come back and be right here with it. You know, and think of all the people who came out to be with it when it started. That's the way it's going to grow. And that's the connection that I think we have to think about, kind of blooming that, growing that inside of us. You know, I think Rue had the patch that has the person with like the tree in the brain. Yeah? And it's kind of like that. If we think about, you know, what the message is in Rue's campaign to bring young Afro-Americans into the woods or into this way, to be with the trees, be with the mountains, be with the rocks, that's something that we all need, you know. And this is one of the best times to be out in the woods right now because it's after a big rain. We always say, you know, you should go to the mountain after the rain. And so there's a lot of goodness there when you go to the mountains after the rain, or you go to the woods after the rain. And that's where we're at now. And so I'm very pleased to be here with you guys. And I think that all of our troubles and things that we're working on, the things that we care about, the people we care about, because we all have issues and we all have heartaches and we all have rough times, is going to help us. And so that's, you know, I think that's why people came.